Hey everyone, so I'm here at the Novotel Darling Harbour after having been moved from the Travelodge earlier tonight, just a few hours ago, and I'm really tired at the moment, but there were some things that I just couldn't not put out there, so I wanted to do that before I went to sleep. So we moved because it was unclean, and there were a lot of complaints about the Travelodge. It doesn't overly surprise me, but it doesn't really impress me that much, to be honest. There's a few things that are kind of making me feel quite angry about what's happened today. So I don't necessarily think that the move was wrong. There were other people had worse off rooms than I did. I could have lived with it. It wasn't a 4.5, 5-star hotel, but I was just thankful to be on Australian soil. Think of Travelodge or Ibis or I don't know, I'm sure there's others like it, versus Novotel, Hilton, Marriott, and Park Royale. Those, it's apples and oranges. Coming from the travel industry, I've stayed in a lot of different hotels, I've stayed in hostels, and when we first rocked up to the Travelodge, I was like, ah, shit. I was hoping for a Novotel quality hotel. I was like, that sucks, I would have loved that, but I just had to accept my fate. I was like, all right, we need to get in and make the most of this. And that tends to be the person that I am anyway. But I don't think it was wrong to make the move. Like I said, I was just grateful to be in the country. Bugs can be killed with bug spray. Ask for a vacuum, or I don't know, ask for a different room. An entire building of people were uprooted tonight at 5 o'clock at night. And what's really more important. So for me, the reason that I was prepared to accept the fate of being in the Travelodge for 2 weeks, it's only 2 weeks of your life, it was because I was just so pleased to be home. I booked my flights at the beginning of July because the deadline to have to pay for the quarantine was coming in, and I can't afford that. So I needed to make a move, and fast. I'd been struggling with the decision to come home for so long. Since March, since I lost my job in Dublin, there was no option for me. I couldn't afford to pay my rent. I had to come home, and I had to do my best to save as much money as I could. And if the reality was going to be was that I had to spend an extra $5,000 on flights to be home as soon as possible, in time to see my family. And I've got my sister's wedding, my only sister's wedding coming up. I'm not missing that, but I didn't have a choice. I had to come home. And if that means staying in a 3-star, 2-star hotel for 2 weeks, I'll do it. I don't care. I'm not special. Sure, I'm a delicate flower, but I'm just glad to be home. And I just want to be with my family. But instead I'm having to move around, and I'm so done with it. I just want to be left the hell alone so that I can do my quarantine in peace and work the plan that I had worked out before I came. I got flights cancelled. I was threatened with being homeless until getting a flight, and I had to fork out a heap of money to get there, to come here. I don't care what room I'm in. I don't care that there's, you know, the bench is sticky. I know how to use a cloth and detergent. What's more important? There's so many Australians. There's so many of us out there that want to come home and we can't. We can't come home because it's too expensive and it's too far, and you know, we have to get 2 flights to come home, and if one of those has reached capacity, then the whole thing gets cancelled. And I was looking at a month's difference between what I'd booked and what was next available in economy, and like what I could afford. And it's a ripple effect, you know? The concept of, oh, we had plenty of time. You know, I could have come home months ago. I could have, you know, I could have, once I lost my job, I could have come home. Once the outbreak happened in January, I should have come home then. Well, I have a life in another country. I lived there for 3 years, and plenty of Australians have lived in other countries for like way longer than me. So like, if 3 years is enough to feel like I have a life in a different country, then like 15 years for some people, you know. There's just so many people who want to come home, and yes, we want a clean place to live in for those 2 weeks, but coming home is a priority. That's how I feel about it. People are having to pay for the quarantine. I mean, I understand that a government can't bear the costs of all things, but I think people would be prepared to, you know, spend those 2 weeks with a smaller cost if it meant that they could come home. You know, like, you know, if you want to stay in a 5-star place, pay $3,500. If you're okay with staying in a 2-star place, pay $1,500. Like, you know, which category do you fit in? That's just about management. The other things on my list are a little bit lighter, at least. The other thing is the privilege factor. Like, I'm really uncomfortable with the fact that I've been sitting here crying and telling this story, but like a couple of hours ago I was sitting in a bubble bath drinking a complimentary glass of wine from the bottle that they left in my fridge for me. Poor me in a nice hotel with a beautiful view. I didn't hate the Travelodge enough to be like, I deserve better, because I don't think I'm any better than like people on Manus Island getting treated worse. The privilege factor around this, it's so skewed. I want the privilege, I want the right of being able to come home. And I want the privilege of being able to keep my family safe by quarantining for 14 days. Not everybody gets that privilege, you know. The second last one is wear your masks. I see so many people like touching their face, fixing their masks. Truth be told, I'm probably a culprit as well, and I just don't think about it. But they're touching their face and stuff, and then they're touching other things. Like I saw a guy picking his nose the other day. Like, just take notice, you know? Because there's other people that are suffering because of it. Like, I want to come home to my family and people like me, having lived overseas. But also, like, a bunch of elderly just died in a nursing home, and like, you can't have the self-restraint not to pick your nose before touching a pedestrian crossing button. Like, some decent human you are. Put you in the Travelodge. You know, just, it's not that hard. It's not that hard. Because the things that are hard, you don't even know about. I think wearing a mask is difficult. Try not being able to breathe at all. I mean, and I say that as a smoker, you know? Like, that's a bit silly of me. It's not that hard not to smoke. It's not that hard to wear a mask. Just do it. The last topic, last one, and it's completely non-COVID related. It's like a pet peeve, but I think it's definitely worth saying, is I cannot understand the need for single-use plastic water bottles in the program, in the quarantine program. I don't get it. It doesn't make any sense. Why is the government assuming that there is something wrong with our tap water and that we need to be drinking bottled water? That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, by all means, have it available, have it on request. But when I came, but with the meals at the Travelodge, every single one came with a bottle of water. And I was there for 3 days. So that's 9 meals. 9 bottles of water for one person. And I didn't open them. I actually used them as weight in my bag so that I could do a workout. There's absolutely no need to be using all of that plastic. It's disgusting. When I came into this hotel, so we had people helping with our luggage. Thank you to the armed forces guys. They helped me with our bags, and there was a pallet of 24 plastic bottles wrapped in plastic. And I looked at it and I said, guys, can you please just take that away? And they're like, oh, you sure you don't want it? Like, I said, there is nothing wrong with the Sydney tap water. Like, why do I need that? Why? I said, if you leave that in this room, it's going to make me angry and hot, and it's going to get on my nerves, and I'm not going to be happy. So you take that water and you take it now. It's unnecessary, and it is a huge manifestation of the attitude towards climate change in this country, and I hate it. I hate it. Do better. Do better. Before I cry again, I need to finish it there. It's been an emotional 4 or 5 days. Saying goodbyes, landing at home, getting that minimal fresh air, going into lockdown, accepting my immediate fate, being upheaved again to go to a place that's a bit nicer. For someone who just wanted to come home, that's a lot, you know. It's too much. But anyway, that's where I'm at, and I couldn't go to sleep without being honest about that. As much as there were cockroaches in my room, I was just happy to be home. As much as breakfast was late that day, like I told the reporters and they published, I was just happy to be home. And I was just like coping with what was going on around me or within me. And I'm still doing that. I was just starting to recover as well, but now it's like all heaved up again. Anyway, I can't do any more. I'm gonna get some sleep in my 5-star bed. Maybe after drinking some more of my 5-star wine. I figure I'm here and locked in, and you know, what else can I do?